Welcome to Peculiar Tales, the show where we dive into the stranger things in history, urban legends, ghost stories, and anything else we find, well, peculiar. I'm Christy.
And I'm Don. Christy, have you ever been to a place that the calmness itself brought unease? Like a feeling that something was really wrong with the eerie calm itself. Almost like, I don't know, you were being watched.
Um, yeah, I think I've gotten that feeling, especially out camping sometimes, just because of the sheer quiet of being out there. Sometimes that'll give you that eerie, ooh, is there somebody in the bushes? Is there, feels like something's watching you.
Yeah, I get that. I get that because I have had these feelings. Some people say, oh, I felt the hairs on my neck go up. Like we've all heard
Yeah.
someone say that at one point. I get that. Well, when the night falls on the Okanagan Lake, the water has an appearance of being a black sheet of glass. With depths that can reach around 750 feet deep, the lake has secrets. Locals have said that the water speaks at times in an ancient way, with sounds low and hollow. For hundreds of years, it has been thought by some that there is a presence there. On the surface, you might see nothing, but under the surface, well, that's a different story. Under the surface, some say there's a monster living there.
First, the name was Naitaka. Now its known name is Ogopogo. Join us while we try to decide for ourselves if what's out there in the lake is a myth or a monster of the deep, dark Okanagan Lake. Ogopogo has roots that belong to the First Nation folklore. Long before the cameras and tourism, it was said that the creature had a serpentine-like body with humps that would break the surface, small head, long neck, and dark in color.
By all accounts, most sightings in the beginning had these descriptions. Ogopogo is believed to be living in the deepest part of the lake, where the temperatures are cold year round, and in these depths, the water is said to be murky with low visibility. There can be extended periods of time with no sightings, and then there could be an insurgence of sightings after one has been made public. Now, there's also many who say that Ogopogo does not exist. Some of the explanations include that what people are seeing is large sturgeon fish or even eels. Some have said most likely it's floating logs or an exaggeration of the imagination brought on by the suggestion of the creature itself. Whichever side of the theories you find yourself, get comfortable while we tell you tales of the Ogopogo.
As we mentioned earlier, the indigenous legend had referred to the creature as Naitaka. However, when trying to find out when the name had changed, well, it's hard to be definitive, because some say it was coined in 1912, and others say it had to be in the 1920s, after a song. Either way, the creature has been renamed, and the one thing that stayed the same was the fact that people thought that it was a creature under the lake, and the creature since then has been known as Ogopogo. In the beginning, the creature was a lake demon of sorts, a water spirit by some, and it was demanded that an offering to the creature be made by those crossing the water of the lakes.
As the legend goes, a man had become possessed by demons and murdered a local who was respected. And as punishment, he was transformed into a serpent of the lake by the gods. Now, going back to 1912, there were some settlers who have now started to record sightings of the creature. Their sightings included things like, well, it was swimming. It was a dark creature that went against the current. Some settlers said it was like a log coming to life. Some other descriptions were that the creature seemed to have a head like a horse or a goat.
The SS Sycamus had some passengers aboard in 1912 that had reported seeing something that seemed to be pacing the ship just under the water's surface. They described a massive dark shape that was long. It would rise and fall several times as if it were watching the ship. The people were unsettled, to say the least. The creature was keeping up speed with the ship before going to the depths of the lake after a long while. Later, it had been noted that the crew refused to speak of the incident, stating only that the lake is not empty.
We mentioned earlier how it was believed that offerings must be made to cross the waters of the lake. It was no different with the early settlers. When the settlers ferried the horses across the waters without an offering being made, the animals, it was said, panicked just about halfway across. So, due to the panic, the boat capsized. The people who did survive reported that the water moved underneath them as if something large had just rolled just below the surface. And then it went really still. As it turns out, in this tale, the lake received its sacrifice owed to it in the end.
In the summer of 1968, it was claimed by a group of children at Squally Point that they had seen what looked like a large log with eyes raising out of the water beside them. The shape was said to be moving with purpose, not floating. The adults thought at first that what the children saw was nothing more than some driftwood. That is until one child said that there was a ridged back and it had snake-like motion to it when it moved. Some say that the water there is still unusually dark.
There was a fisherman hauling in his net. He said he felt a snag and that he felt the net pull back. The fisherman made it known that whatever was at the other end moved against the boat. Moments, not minutes later, the line went loose, and when the net resurfaced, well, it was seen that something had torn straight through the net, a clean tear. Whatever had gone through that net was powerful and rough. Sightings picked up in the 1980s. Again, there were reports of long dark shapes that only for brief amounts of time would come up to the surface. So many people did report that whatever it was moved against the current. Most of the sightings during this time were people like boaters, dock workers, and fishermen.
In 1989, a tape was made. The recording showed what appeared to be a serpentine form in the water. It was moving in a rhythmic motion, like a wave would. There are skeptics out there that say it was nothing more than a wake from a boat, and the believers, they say it was an independent kind of movement, a pacing. This video is well known, as it seems to resurface when sightings of the Ogopogo return to the media. In the 1990s, many boaters made reports that something was resurfacing. However, it was parallel to the boat. Most descriptions in the 90s were that the creature had multiple humps and smooth, dark back, and they had a sense that they were now being followed and not approached. By most accounts, the sightings lasted a few seconds, just long enough to unnerve the boaters.
In the 2000s, when the William R. Bennett Bridge was opened, drivers crossing the bridge will report from time to time that they saw something, what they say was pacing the cars from below. They seen dark shapes that seemed to be rolling in the dark water. It has been said that the rolls are too slow to be waves, and when they stop to look at what they thought they seen, well, then it's gone. Most sighting at the bridge were at night. In the 2010s, there were short videos that were shown, but were considered time and time again to be inconclusive.
And then there are the kayakers and people on paddleboards. Now, these people were different than others, saying that they could feel something suddenly passing under them below the water. And it has been written that many reports of these moments of sightings or feelings under the vessels say that right after the water goes eerily still afterwards. In the past 6 years, there have been fewer sightings, but the reports that are being given now have been said to be detailed. People say that there was no drinking, it was calm waters, and most accounts, the people have a knowledge of wildlife and the water.
In 2022, there were two people on the lake in a boat. At first, the captain of the boat thought he could see what appeared to be a log. He was concerned that if it was a log, it could interfere in a dangerous way with other boaters. He and the other person on the boat took a video, and what they captured was remarkable. In the video, you can see a head of a creature, like a dragon head almost, with what was described as nodules on the top, slightly out of the water. You can't see an entire body, but you can see a dark mass on one side just beneath the water. When the tape was given to officials to examine, it was eventually concluded that the creature in question must be an aquatic bird of some sort. So, to recap here, it seems that over the decades, most accounts say that the encounters are less than 30 seconds in length, that there is a smooth, purposeful way in movement, the color is dark, and that there is never a sound made, a splash, or a wake from the creature. Okay, so let's talk some theories here. Theory number 1, misidentified animals of the water. Now, some say it must be a sturgeon fish, eels, or even otters swimming in a perfect line.
I did see one video, though, that after watching it, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a dog swimming in the water. You can say it's Ogopogo, but it looked like a dog swimming. Like, even the pattern it was taking, I was like, ugh, I don't, that one I would agree with the skeptics on.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's other ones out there where they're like, oh, it's a log. I'm like, a log doesn't move like that.
As far as logs go and debris, now submerged logs can resurface,
Mm-hmm.
they can roll, and they can sink, and they
Mm-hmm.
can pop back up.
Mm-hmm.
So, how often, and I am truly looking for an answer here,
Mm.
how often is it seen that a log is swimming like a snake would in the water, back and forth, back and forth?
That's where I'll argue the log in certain videos because a log doesn't move like that. Sure, it can sink down, it can pop back up, it can go back under, it can roll around, like you said, but it doesn't twist and turn like a
No.
snake.
In our one story here, where the ship said it was keeping up pace, it would
Right.
go down and pop up. Now, I would be on the skeptic side on that story only because that could have been a log being pushed down from the water's pressure up and
Hmm.
down, like maybe, you know,
Yeah.
keeping up with it. Maybe the water was making a current pulling the log. There's a possibility there. I'm on both sides of could be this, could be that.
Right.
And then we have optical illusions, the lighting. Some people say it could have been a heat shimmer,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe the sun does get in people's eyes. Maybe,
Well, when you've been looking at a light and then you look away and there's like those black spots in your eyes,
oh yeah.
you're out in the sunshine. It's possible. It's also possible that some of the darkness they're seeing is just under the water growth, plant growth, and stuff like that in a section, right? So you're seeing the darkness there. So optical illusion is, I don't know, it's possible.
But it doesn't explain the up close sightings
No,
from
it
the
doesn't.
boats and docks.
You're
So you've
absolutely
got
right.
these fishermen that are on their dock
Hmm.
or on their boat and they look down and they see something.
Right.
But then again, I mean, I guess people could go back to, oh, that was a sturgeon, because I guess these sturgeon fish in particular get
Hmm.
pretty darn large,
Yeah.
right? Then you have hoaxes,
Mm-hmm.
another theory. So it has been proven that some pictures and videos are untrue. There are
Mm-hmm.
people out there that are like, hey, how can we do this and fool the world?
Right, exactly. Much like a lot of videos out there of
Yep.
all kinds, right?
So I sit on a fence with Ogopogo.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there could be something there,
Right.
you know, but as time progresses, like as you look back from decades, you see things
Mm-hmm.
either it's been exaggerated,
Yeah.
stories are being told. There could be something, but who knows?
Now, there is one thing though that I like to kind of ponder with this story. So, Ogopogo and the Loch Ness Monster carry a lot of the same kind of
Very
information
similar.
about them, very similar, right?
Hmm.
What's also very similar about the two is the water type. They're both freshwater, they're both made from glaciers, they're both way deeper than most stretches of lake are. So, it makes you wonder if it's real, is it the same thing in both places, just living in different parts of the world?
I mean, that's a really good question because, going back to what we earlier said, is that somebody did something real bad and that they were punished by the gods and you were turned into something,
Yeah,
right? Like they said, the gods turned this guy into a serpent.
right.
Then in other things, it was like, no, it was a spirit, a water spirit. So you go back and forth. Now, I haven't looked too much into Nessie.
Right.
Not to say that we won't,
No.
but I don't know if Nessie started off the same way, someone doing something super terrible
Right.
and this was their thing, or if Nessie is like a prehistoric. Like we
Well,
have our tortoises, we
mhm,
have our alligators, we have our whales, sharks. Like there are prehistoric animals that
mhm.
have been on this earth longer than humans, right? So maybe Nessie is real.
Well, that's I don't know, my hope for it. If Ogopogo and Nessie are real, I kind of just really hope they're dinosaurs that have just been really far down and have just been procreating this whole time, minding their own business. Kind of love
So
that theory.
so I'm really glad you brought that up because where my head goes with this entire story,
Mhm.
something that nobody's brought up that I could find in my research.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're going back hundreds of years with Ogopogo.
Yeah.
Hundreds.
Yeah.
And it was a water spirit and you make your sacrifices and you do this and that.
Yeah.
Now, I know there are some animals, tortoises,
Mhm.
for instance, that can live a couple hundred years,
Yeah.
right? If there was only one, is it like a frog and it can reproduce on its own? Or is it I could be wrong about the frog. I don't know. I'm just go
Some do, I do believe. I think
like
you might
I
be
don't
right
know.
on
I
that.
feel like they're called eight. Anyway, moving on. What I'm thinking though is it able to reproduce itself? If so, would that explain why in the beginning it had a rigid back? It had this, it had that. And then as the accounts go on, no, it had a smooth back. And that caught my attention because it's like, that's very different.
Mhm.
So, did it evolve? Did it lose its ridges? Did
Adapting
it
to its environment.
did it just reproduce and these are now what it's like because of its environment?
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm looking for that explanation out there,
Right.
and locals. We also have locals, and I don't know if it's the same with Nessie. But there are locals, like there are reports made by people that they never went to the media. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, hell no, I'm not saying this to anybody.
Right. I don't want
Oh,
people thinking
hells
I'm
no.
crazy.
Right? So you have that part of the story of why even go to an official if it's a lie like that and you're not going to want any attention?
Right.
Because if it's a hoax, they want everybody to know,
Well,
you
that's
know?
exactly it.
So you have these questions that linger around, right?
More questions than answers, that's for sure.
I sit on the fence like could be.
Yeah.
We have prehistoric animals. Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe we're all fooled.
Yeah.
The suggestion was there, so maybe our mind
Right.
will,
Somebody saw something a long, long time ago and told stories about it, and it's just been in people's heads ever since.
yeah, it just keeps growing over time.
I still really want it to be a dinosaur.
I'm with you. I would definitely like to see proof of it
Yeah.
because that would make this world that much more interesting. None of the theories really add up completely. You see, each theory explains something, but not everything. So then, what do we conclude with what's left? Well, let's look back to the very beginning when we were told that Ogopogo was a spirit of the water, a water demon. In the early 20th century, it seems that things went from spiritual in nature to real. People love a mystery, and sometimes our minds can play tricks on us and lead us to think that maybe we saw something and it was really something else. And then, on the other hand, there are times we are looking at exactly what we think we are. With no real proof after all this time, it seems like the mystery will continue, and sightings may introduce a new detail of what could be under the dark waters of Lake Okanagan. New generations will come to their own conclusions or even find that proof one day. But until then, watch a little more closely and listen a little harder. Because while some lakes hold reflections, this one, this lake, it holds secrets. And as always, thank you for listening to us today. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment or a review and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And until the peculiar calls for another tale, bye for now.